The Department of Planning staff members are Debbie Nesbitt, Abiola Adesanya, Abby Freudel, Summer Ying, and Gretchen Arnold. Also on the call is John Burford from the County Counselor's Office. First, I'd like to offer into the record the affidavit of publication pertaining to today's meeting, July 10th, 2024. The board hereby takes official notice of and admits into evidence on the record the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 1003, St. Louis County Revised Ordinance 1974 as amended, and Chapter 1004, St. Louis County Revised Ordinance 1974 as amended. Next, I would call for a motion to approve the minutes of the previous BZA meeting of June 26, 2024.
I move to approve the minutes as read.
I will second. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. This meeting is conducted as a teleconference and is recorded. The planning staff will read each request into the record and present technical advice to the board if needed. The petitioner will be unmuted, state their name, and make a brief presentation to the board explaining the reason and hardship for the requested variance. The board will not consider financial hardships. The board members may ask questions to clarify the facts. When the board is satisfied with the material present, the chairperson will then ask if there is anyone in favor or opposition to the request. To do so, click the hand next to your name, and if there are any comments submitted, staff will read them into the record as well. Before a call for the vote, the petitioner may request a continuance in order to bring additional documentation. The board may also request a continuance to gather additional information or for a visit to the site. Once all comments have been heard, the chairperson will call for a vote. At that time, the discussion has ended and no further discussion is permitted. The board will generally make a decision today. Since there are only 2 members at this time, if the board's vote is split 1-1, the request will be continued to the next regularly scheduled meeting when all 3 members are present. If a variance is approved, the petitioner has 6 months to obtain the necessary permits or establish the use requested, or the variance will expire. The petitioner or any interested party has the right to appeal to the St. Louis County Circuit Court, and paperwork indicating the board's decision will be mailed to the petitioners.
Okay. 63-24 Edward Astor is a request for an exception to the side and rear yard regulation for the purpose of constructing an 8-foot high fence along a portion of the rear yard at 5333 Pebble Oak Drive, maintaining a side yard of 0 feet in lieu of 8 feet and a rear yard of 0 feet in lieu of 15 feet, as required by the R3 Residence District regulations of the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance. I've requested for you to unmute Edward. Please state your name to the record and present your case.
Yes, my name is Edward Harster, and I live at 5833 Pebble Oak Drive, located in Concord, Missouri. And as you said, today I'm requesting a variance in order to construct a 2-foot fence extension to part of my existing 6-foot vinyl fence in order to obtain an overall fence height of 8 foot. The variance I'm requesting is that the 8-foot fence have a 0-foot offset from the side yard instead of the 8-foot minimum offset, and a 0-foot offset from the rear yard instead of the 15-foot minimum offset. My reasoning for wanting to install the extension is to add privacy to my backyard, deck, and house from my rear neighbors. The back of my house has a 7-foot wide patio glass door that leads out to a deck. My rear neighbor's house sits slightly uphill from my house, lending them the opportunity to look straight into my house from their house or patio. Until recently, there was a tree in my yard which I had removed out of concern from falling and dropping debris into my neighbor's yards, which lent some additional privacy to my house. I don't have really any problems with my rear neighbors. However, they are avid gardeners, and because of their work schedules, they tend to garden in the evening hours. During these hours, they light their yards with lamps and lanterns, which often cause light to pour into my house through the patio door and rear windows. I don't believe they wish to spy on me or peep in on me, but it does feel like I am at a loss of privacy in my own house at this point. My intention is to only construct a 40-foot long section of the 8-foot fence height, which will mainly just provide the additional screening to my living room and my deck. The other sides of my backyard have a chain link fence, so my backyard isn't completely screened off from the neighbors. And so, yeah, I appreciate everybody in attendance lending me their time for me to petition my request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Vince, do you have any questions of the petitioner at this time?
Yeah, if we can go back to the plan, I just want to make sure I understood it correctly, that we're just adding the height onto the existing fence, or we're constructing a new fence. I'm trying to understand the red and the green.
Yeah, I'm thinking the green is the maybe easement line on this
Okay,
drawing,
that's a
and
setback
the
line.
red is.
Okay.
But is there an elevation view?
I think there was one. Go one more to the
So
to like slide 4.
So I found a kit basically online that it's a 2-foot extension that you can place on top of an existing fence. And so my intention is to not remove the existing fence, but add the 2-foot extension onto the top of it.
But we're talking about both sides, right? On two different fences, north,
It's only on the rear fence.
only on the rear fence, okay. And it's on the existing fence. And I guess the next question is there an existing variance for?
Well, the existing fence is only at 6 foot, which would be allowed to be at the property line.
Okay. I have no other questions.
I just have a question, I think more for staff. I think on this, was a side yard variance necessary in this particular case? Because if you look on the next slide, I think it doesn't appear that he needs a side yard variance.
It does not appear that he needs the side yard. It was Public Works wanted me to advertise the side yard just in case, but I don't, in his presentation, I do not feel it's necessary.
Sir, do you know, sorry, Mr. Harster, do you know, how far over that 2-foot fence will be from the side yard?
I was going to start it at the 3rd panel in, and I believe each panel is 8 foot wide, so it should be about 16 foot from the side yard. So yeah, I agree. Kind of, I don't know that the side yard variance is necessarily required, but they asked me to ask for that.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. Vince, do you?
No, I'm good.
Okay, at this time, I'll ask if there is anyone in the meeting that would like to speak in favor or opposition of the proposed variance.
I do not see any hands at this time, so I've muted the petitioner so that the board can take their vote.
All right, thank you so much. And this, sorry, I don't have my agenda up. What's the case number on this one?
63-24.
In the matter of 63-24, I would make a motion to approve the variance to the rear yard setback. However, I don't believe there needs to be one for the side yard.
I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the variance is approved and you'll receive your paperwork in the next couple weeks.
64-24 Baylor School District is a request for an exception to the front yard and off-street parking regulations to maintain a parking lot at 9296 Gravois Road, maintaining a front yard of 0 feet in lieu of 15 feet for the drive aisle along Gravois Road and Niles Place, a drive aisle width of 15 feet in lieu of 22 feet along Gravois Road, and 18 parking spaces in lieu of 23 spaces, as required by the C3 Shopping District Regulations and Section 1003.165 off-street parking and loading regulations of the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance. I've requested that you unmute yourself, Mr. Floyd. Please state your name and present your case.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Arthur Floyd. My address is 1120 Ralph Terrace in Richmond Heights, Missouri. I'm here on behalf of Bayless School District in regard to the building referenced that they have purchased a vacant building for their new administration building along Gravois Road. It is a corner lot on Gravois and Niles Place. The building is situated such that there is not available space for parking at the rear or the side yard of the building. We are requesting the variances for the drive aisle and front yard due to the current location of the rights of way for Niles Place and Gravois Road. Head-in parking is all that can be accommodated and was previously in place on this site, and but we're not able to accommodate the full requirement for the front yard and the drive aisle as such. We have also asked for a variance for the parking requirement at 18 rather than 23. This is a similar situation in that the parking is relegated to the front yards of the building, and we have increased the parking on the site along Niles Place in order to have 5 more spaces. This was previously a loading area for the mercantile use that was there previously, and we've decommissioned that loading area and recaptured that area for some additional parking spaces so that we have more than was there previously. But we are still working with the limitations of the site.
What is the use of the parking? Is this employee only, or will this be traffic from?
It is primarily employees. In terms of the amount of parking spaces, they are housing administrators, board administrators, a registrar, a staff of finance of about 4, and they will have periodic comings and goings of visitors, but it is not in groups. It's like somebody to visit the registrar or somebody to visit maybe a parental visit for some reason. We do have accessible entrances on both street frontages in an effort to get folks to the place that they need to the most direct. And the lower level is going to be the Niles Place will be the registrar entrance, and the upper level is the main administration entrance. There is a lot less demand in terms of walk-in visitors, and since most of the registration is done online and a lot of things are handled that way.
And they're not holding board meetings at this location?
This is not, no, they will continue to hold board meetings at the high school where they do currently. This is not intended for board meetings. There is no boardroom.
Okay. Thank you. Vince, do you have any further questions? Sorry.
No, I don't.
Okay, I don't either. So at this time, if there are anyone in the meeting that would like to speak for or against the proposed variance, please raise your hand.
Do not see any hands at this time, and I've muted the petitioner so the board can take their vote.
Thank you. In the case of 64-24, I make a motion to recommend the approval of the variance, citing hardship of low traffic areas for this and the use of the very narrow drive aisle.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the variance is approved as advertised.
65-24, Vantage Credit Union is a request for an exception to the drive aisle width for a new credit union at 13849 Manchester Road, maintaining a portion of the drive aisle for the ATMs of 9 feet in lieu of 15 feet as required by the C2 shopping district regulations and the section 1003.165 off-street parking and loading regulations of the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance. I've requested that you unmute yourself, Mr. Ham. Please state your name and present your case to the board.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Brandon Harp. I'm a president of Civil Engineering Design Consultants. Made this petition on behalf of Vantage Credit Union for the property at 13849 Manchester Road. The aerial photo that you see here shows the old Steak and Shake restaurant, which is at this location. We're adjacent, just west of Mason Road, and we're just adjacent actually to municipal limits of the city and town and country to the north and to the northwest. Currently, the site is vacant. The Steak and Shake restaurant and the pavement have been removed. What we're proposing for this piece of property is on the western part of the left side of this property is a new Vantage Credit Union, basically a bank, shown here on this site plan. The reason why we're here tonight is because in the zoning code, there's a provision under motor vehicle oriented businesses and stacking lanes that they be a minimum of 12 feet wide. We acknowledge that, and we believe our stacking lanes are 12 feet wide when the cars are stacking to get into the ATM area. However, you've all visited ATMs before, and the ATM machines are fixed on raised concrete medians, raised concrete islands, and the cars are then funneled through to position themselves to be able to operate the ATM machine. And so we always reduce the width of that private service transaction at the ATM to somewhere between 8.5 and 9.5 on banks that we've done in the past, which total about 50 or more. We never have a 12-foot wide opening where the car would go through, because what happens is the cars inevitably pull too far away from the ATM and they can't use it. And if there's another customer behind them, then they can't reposition to get closer to the ATM machine to do their personal service banking. That's why those are narrowed up. And on this one, we have them down at 9 feet, which is a standard for Vantage Credit Union. So again, all the cars that are coming into the ATM around this building, which would be counterclockwise, they do have the 12-foot required lanes. When they get to the point where they will not be stacking anymore, but then enter into the private service area in their car to actually service the ATM, we narrow that width to 9 feet. So the car is forced to be positioned close to that ATM where they can reach it and do their transaction, not be too far away. If those were 12 feet wide and someone pulled in and was, say, another 1.5 or 2 feet further away, they wouldn't be able to reach that ATM. And if a car was behind them, they wouldn't be able to back up and reposition to get closer. So as she said, the code says that the stacking lane requirement is 12 foot wide. We don't believe this is actually part of the stacking. This is where the car is actually doing their private service transaction. It's not part of the stacking lanes behind that car. And again, the reason why we narrowed those is so the customer can pull properly up to the ATM and reach the machine and do their business. We've done many other banks in unincorporated St. Louis County. We've never had this enforced. And I'm not sure if this is a more recent code adoption or not, and I don't know that, but it's just never been enforced in the past. We talked to staff about it. They thought it was a reasonable request, for the variance. And so we're here tonight to respectfully request your consideration to approve us to narrow down between the raised concrete medians to 9 feet so the cars can be positioned correctly to be serviced by the ATM.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harp. Vince, do you have any questions?
Just point of clarification. So I thought I heard you say, but wanted to get it confirmed. Is the stack aisle aside from the ATM area still proposed to be 12 feet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure it's clear. So the variance is just for the ATM portion, what we're looking at dotted in the red near the drive aisles.
It is. And if it's not clear on this plan, I do have a little color exhibit I can share if you think it's appropriate.
Okay. And in this plan, can you help orient me of where Manchester is? It because it said north, so is Manchester on the bottom?
Of course, I apologize. I should have explained that earlier. The site sits north of Manchester Road at the old Steak and Shake site, which has currently been removed. So we're on the north side. On the lower right side of this plan, that's where the drive entrance is, where you'll come in off of Manchester and go north. And you'll continue to go north all the way up and then go counterclockwise and then be positioned on those red dashed lines to do your private transaction.
Okay. I have no other questions, Justin.
I don't think I have any questions at this time either. So this time I will ask if there is anyone in the meeting in favor or opposition that would like to speak on the proposed variance.
I do not see any hands at this time, so I have put the petitioner on mute so the board can take their vote.
All right, based on the conversation for 65-24, I will make a motion to approve the variance as advertised based on industry standards and the stacking code differential. So
I second that motion.
all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, looks like the variance is approved as advertised, and I believe that's our last item.
Yeah, that's our last item for today.
All right, Vince, you want to do the honors? You want me to?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Awesome. I will second that motion, and we will be adjourned until the next meeting.
Aye.
And yeah, any opposed? All right, guys, thanks. We made it through.
Yeah.
All the weeks.
Angelia will be back.